Hello, this is a bit of Dawn of War 3 beta multiplayer footage that I'm presenting here. Narration has been done after the fact, because there's no way that I'm going to try and talk about stuff while playing Dawn of War 3. I'm bad enough as it is. This footage taken from a couple of 3v3 games that I partook in. And yeah, as noted, I am not the Dawn of War 3 expert, especially not in multiplayer. But that said, I did learn quite a bit about how it works and how it differs from previous Dawn of Wars, how it also differs from Company of Heroes 2, which it resembles a little bit. So I can talk about those things. First thing I think possibly to note is that about resource points. There are no like victory point gathering resource points in Dawn of War 3. I think I'm right in saying that. I mean, there was only one mode of play on offer in the beta, which is the power core mode, which, as far as I can tell, is absolutely the main predominant mode of play. So yeah, unlike Company of Heroes 2, where you try and sit on as many victory point resource points as possible and gather up as many points as you can until you achieve victory. The resource points in this are predominantly two types. You have the standard ones that you can build either, what are they called? There's power, and the one that you spend on infantry, which is called requisition. There we go. The yellow one is the requisition. So yeah, you can build, once you capture a resource point, you can have it gathering requisition or power. You can then build up to the next stage, which gives you a little bit of a bonus, I think 25% extra resources. And then if you wish to protect it more, you can have your builder unit stick a listing post on it, which yeah, gives it a bit of defenses basically. You might see, yeah, I've built one on the footage right now. There is a listing post on that one. That is actually the one I was just talking about there, and that you just saw was the second type, which is builds up your elite points, the purple diamond, and we'll get to elites a little bit later on, I think. But for now, know that there is a type of resource point that can get elite points for you a little. I believe they tick over naturally as well, but it is a good idea to be getting more of them, as it is with any resource, of course. So yeah, now obviously the fact that victory points on objective resource points are no longer really a thing means that yeah, the method of victory now, again in this mode, but this very much seems to be the main one. The method of victory is, well, it's sequential. You have to kill the opponent's power core. Basically, it's one, this is a 3v3 game, but there's one power core on each side. It's shared between the three. But before you can destroy the power core, you have to also destroy a turret. And before you can destroy the turret, you have to destroy the shield generator that is protecting the turret. So it's kind of a three-step affair, and I think the overall intent for all of this, really, both the removal of kind of bunkering down on victory points, and also the fact that you have to legitimately get to the other opponent's base and destroy that, is to kind of be pushing people forward, pushing people at the resource point and the objective capture points as much as possible. There's not, obviously you kind of hunker down and try and hold on to what you have, he says, as this is just footage of our team losing one there. You obviously try and protect what you already own, but you need to be pushing forwards. You need to be trying to capture the opponents, so that you have the resources necessary to then push on to their base ultimately. At this point in the match, we're being pressed back. We're losing them. At the very start of the match, the Eldar I was trying to expand too quickly. Rookie mistake. The Eldarks kind of swept in, and while they didn't capture the 2 resource points that I had, they did kind of screw up my building plan and set me back a few resources and basically just disrupt things, which of course was beneficial for them and not helpful for our team. So, yeah, that's the resource points, that's the power core stuff. Tied into that somewhat, I think, is Relic's idea for escalation phases. So currently, you might be able to see in the top right, it says escalation phase 2. There are 4 escalation phases that you go throughout the match. Well, unless the match reaches its conclusion before that point, but generally it can go through 4 escalation phases. In the first phase, you get a little bit of resource back if you lose a unit. It's 25% of its resource cost you get back. Now that diminishes a little bit as you go through the phases. I think it only goes to like 15% in phase 2, 5% in phase 3, 0 in 4, I think. Also, as you go through the phases, you get more resources, or rather your resource points generate more resources for you. By phase 2, I think it's extra 50%. By the time you're at phase 4, it's like 150%. And defensive structures get more either more hit points or... Let me look this up, actually, I've got it here. Objective structure health increases, and listening post health also increases. So, basically, if you have a bunch of objective points secured by the time of like phase 3, you're going to be harder to shift from them at that point. But also, if in phase 1 you kind of lose a couple of troops, a couple of units, going on, gambling on kind of expansive adventures, trying to disrupt things, or excuse me, or trying to capture points. If you lose a couple of units, it's not the end of the world. Like, obviously that'll be a setback, but you will get some of the resources back for them. I think the intent with all of this, it's hard to say at this point whether it's going to work flawlessly and to achieve this, but I think the intent is to make sure that the match isn't like instantly running away from people. Like, you don't go for an aggressive action towards an objective point, lose some troops, and then think, well, shit, because that didn't work, I'm never going to catch up resource-wise, so on and so forth. Here, I think we just saw our turrets go down here. Obviously, we're being pretty swarmed, and I'm about to call in an elite unit, which leads in pretty well, I guess, onto talking about elites. You can see probably on the left-hand side, I've got three square boxes there. You choose your elite units in a loadout before you enter into a multiplayer match. There's also a few like little perk things that you can sequentially unlock. I think I had something like, if my tactical marines had flamers, I think the flames would slow down enemy units, something like that. That's the kind of little extra perk you get. But yeah, the elites are guys or units that you can summon throughout the match. And here we are, we're just phasing into our second game here. That have a requisite resource cost. So I was talking about the capture points that generated elite, the purple elite resource. Depending who you choose, they have a requisite cost. So I was playing as Space Marines quite a lot during this multiplayer weekend, mostly because I wanted to stick with one faction and at least try and get a vague idea of how they played, rather than skipping around between three and being utter garbage with all of them. I was moderately successful in that, I would say. So anyway, the Space Marines They have guys like Gabriel Angelos, who costs 4 elite points. They've got the I think Iron Claw, like little unit of assassins, who they only cost 2. You get some Assault Terminators, they cost 7, and you get like an Imperial Knight, kind of not quite a Warhammer 40k Titan, but the sort of the tier below a massive Titan, but above a Dreadnought. Anyway, you can get one of those, and that costs 10. So this kind of informs your game strategy to some extent, because obviously if you've got guys you can call in with just 2 points, they're not going to be as powerful or effective as someone who costs like 7 or 10, but you'll be able to get them a lot earlier, and you'll be able to use them to maybe push the balance in your favour early on, which of course could be very useful. I mean, here we go, I've just called in the Iron Claw guys there. I think that's their name. Apologies if that's not quite right. And those guys you can equip with like missile launchers and stuff. I did that in the first match. You may have seen them launching missiles at people. But of course, alternatively, you can think, well, if I can stick this out to late game, if I can save up like 10 elite points, I can bring in the Imperial Knight. That's going to be a very powerful, stompy unit. Maybe I can hang on to that point and maybe swing the match that way. So that all plays into the whole tactical shenanigans. You also have like a kind of special. Each of the races, the 3 races, Orcs, Eldar, and Space Marines, has a kind of special power that they can activate with the same elite unit points. It's a sort of orbital bombardment thing for the Space Marines. And those really are the most dramatic differences, I would say, between, well, Company of Heroes 2 is probably the closest reference. I mean, the kind of moderate base building, teching up process is similar to Company of Heroes 2. I mean, for example, before you can build the vehicle building, the machine. Sorry, the machine cult. I apologise. I'm going to take a drink of water here. Yeah, what was I talking about? The machine cult, yes. Before you can build that as the Space Marines, you need to spec up your main HQ to the 2nd level, which of course takes quite a few resources. That's a bit of an investment, so it's kind of a 2-layer investment that you need to make there before you can start pumping out vehicles, which is of course something you want to be doing. Now I don't know if this is the case for all of the races, but for Space Marines it seems that for infantry it's predominantly they cost requisition points. As soon as you start want to put out vehicles like dreadnoughts and what have you, then that starts to cost power, so you need a relative balance of those, or move towards more power output as you start to require vehicles. Right now I've got like, at this point in the match, I've got like 1,000 requisition points. I'm floating far too many, and I've got like a couple hundred in power, so that's kind of imbalance for this point in the match as well, really. Probably want to be working towards vehicles at this point, so power output should be a little higher. That's one of the Orc elites that's on the screen right now, battling one of the other Orc elites, I believe. Backed up by my tactical marines, who are getting kind of wasted by devastators, I think, and also by some orbital pods who've come to mop up. Yeah, this battle didn't go great either. There's Gabriel Angelos. He's healing up a little bit by standing near my buildings. Yeah, so interesting changes that Relic have made here. As I say, I'm not 100% ready to kind of commit to like, yes, this is a great change and great idea, or to like, no, this is awful. I don't know at this point. Wasn't able to play enough It did just run a couple of days this beta weekend. There's an open one coming up as well, and that'll give more people a chance to get in and have a look at this and see what they think of Dawn of War 3. At this point, as you can see on the map, we've been pushed way back. I've got a Dreadnought out, but it's not going to do a whole lot against the massed forces down there. Both my elites that I got out have been killed at this point. Yeah. I mean, I guess I will say that, fears that this was going a bit MOBA-y are kind of both. Here we go, we're just doing escalation phase 3 here. We're not going to make it to phase 4 in this one, because it's going to finish too quick. Yeah, the MOBA fears. I mean, yes, the elites are, reminiscent of heroes from MOBA titles, and yes, the sort of having to sequentially destroy the shields and turret and power core is also reminiscent of MOBA stuff. I mean, I would say, of course, that Dawn of War 2 had specialist characters that were somewhat MOBA-esque. So I don't think that's a huge kind of indictment. It does, I would say, this still feels very Company of Heroes 2. That would be my closest point of reference. So possibly without so much of the kind of incremental upgrade nonsense of like, oh, here's the thing that'll do like 2% extra damage if you put it on your Marines or whatever. There are still some upgrade and unlock structures for the heroes and for your faction and everything, but it doesn't seem to be quite as egregious. I may eat those words later, but for now it seems okay. Some of it is cosmetic as well. When you reach like level 9, you can get a unique skin for some of the elite heroes. But yeah, no, it's mostly reminiscent of Company of Heroes 2, and I think now you can watch our power core explode. This is what happens. This is what happens when you lose a game of Dawn of War 3. We've put it into you can hide your power core briefly to give you a bit of respite, but that's not going to do any good because we're getting smashed up and smashed to pieces. Thanks to, well, no small part of ineptitude on my part, but who knows whether my team are any good as well. Who knows? So yeah, Dawn of War 3, open beta coming soon. Game's out on the 27th of April. Thanks for watching.